I do really want to preface this because I am going to be talking about kind of stress and stuff around content. I love creating content. First and foremost, this is not going to be me stepping away. This is not going to be like a prelude to a graduation or anything, but I haven't really been pursuing content in the healthiest way, both physically and mentally for myself. Before I went on my break, I did mention that it was both for some mental and physical health concerns. And during the break, I did actually start to get to address them. I set up doctor's appointments, and we have started getting moves. When it comes to my migraines, I was able to get some triptans, which is a common medication prescribed for migraines. So I was finally able to make progress on that. And I also talked to the doctors about some kind of pains that I've been having, and we are in the process of getting new referrals to get tests to see if we can figure out what's going on and how we can help that. So physical health is all being worked on. Mental health is being worked on, but at a much different pace. We were able to increase some medications I was on to see if it'll help better stabilize my mental health. And at this time, I am trying to pursue getting into therapy. However, unfortunately, the only options I have are paid therapy centers, and they are potentially a little bit outside of what we can afford right now. Which is what it is. I'm trying to see if they're willing to do every other week rather than weekly, but there's a lot that goes into it that they may not be able to. So we're trying to see, and I'm trying to pursue it. But overall, I am making progress on my physical and mental health. However, I have still been pursuing content in a way that has been really unhealthy. And a really, really big part of that is, for those of you guys that don't know, I have BPD, also known as borderline personality disorder. And I will say that content creation and BPD really, really do not go well together. They don't. And it definitely has caused me a lot of extra stress. Now, BPD is a little bit different for everybody, but for me specifically, I struggle a lot with kind of understanding social situations and my relationships with people. I don't know how to tell when somebody views me as like a friend or an acquaintance. I don't know how to tell when somebody is genuinely there, like because they want to be my friend or because they want to use me. And these are things that I've struggled with a lot, particularly in content, and has made me really scared about a lot of stuff. As a content creator, struggling to like socially interact with people is not great. It really isn't. And that's just one part of it. So I also struggle a lot with my self-worth, which is like really not healthy as a content creator. My self-worth, due to my BPD, as far as we know, is unfortunately very heavily tied to like how people perceive me. And usually for a lot of people, this is more like the people close to them, the people who are you know, like a favorite person, their relationships, their close friends and stuff. As a content creator, though, unfortunately, this has evolved into if I see a massive dip in numbers, right? Now, I don't pay attention to the numbers specifically, but I pay attention to the analytics. I pay attention to the trends. And when I see that, I struggle to not ask myself what I've been doing wrong. When people come in and they make comments about, oh, this game isn't for me, or make kind of offhanded comments, maybe not intending for it to come off mean, but my brain will take and twist those sometimes in ways that is really not great. And these are things that I can't do much about it. Unfortunately, I just have to do my best to remind myself that like that is my brain twisting my perception. But it does mean that a lot of times I put a lot of pressure on myself in ways that I really shouldn't be. And then I simultaneously struggle to do the things like go out and make friends and network within the community and find other creators who I vibe with and I enjoy and can share, you know, not like the burden isn't putting my burden on them, but like be able to like chat about it and like have people who understand and build friendships. I don't know how. So essentially between the BPD weighing on me as a creator and then my other mental health also declining. I also have major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, CPTSD, agoraphobia, and all of those have basically just created the perfect storm of I wasn't doing well. And if I'm honest, I'm still really not. I'm not 100% better, but that journey is probably going to be months, if not years. But instead of taking the time to take care of myself in this, you know, when my BPD is acting up, taking the time to step back and remind myself that that is not the reality, that is my twisted perception because of my past trauma. Instead, I have put more time and energy than I actually had into creating content, into just very unhealthy pursuits. I basically became a workaholic for content creation, except the problem is with that, I would say probably 40 to 60% never actually made it to being seen because I didn't think it was good enough. So I've put countless extra hours into content and a large portion of it has just gone nowhere. Now, it's normal to have projects that go nowhere sometimes, but when you're overworking yourself and then still a very large portion is not going anywhere, that's not healthy. But I was doing that rather than taking care of myself. And it has resulted in not healthy things. So that's part of why I took those 2 weeks off. And the first week, I basically just didn't let myself touch content. I scheduled out posts as much as I could. I posted the things I couldn't schedule. I took maybe 5-10 minutes a day to drop those in the respective places I could. And I literally, the only thing I actually created was the Dream Snaps YouTube video that I do every week. Because that's something that I couldn't do early or late. Outside of that, I basically just didn't touch it. I refused to let myself. I spent a lot of time, well, I had hoped to spend more time like curled up reading or watching stuff. Unfortunately, a very large portion of that week was spent, I say unfortunately, it is good, it is healthy, but a big portion of that week was spent dealing with doctor's appointments and trying to reset my sleep schedule because getting appointments here is very difficult, especially somebody who's nocturnal. And then, as you guys know, I did go ahead and take that second week off. And in that week, I spent a lot of time thinking about my content, what I actually want to achieve, and how to create like healthier boundaries for myself as a creator. And this is where we're going to start getting into how all of this is actually going to affect my content and how I'm going to approach things moving forward, because I need to make those changes. I do. I really do. And I have spent a lot of time thinking about it. And one of the biggest things, and this is going to be a bit hard for me to talk about, I have put myself under a lot of excessive financial distress for stream. I have. My monthly outgoings have been higher than what I am making every month. And unfortunately, I don't actually have the money to be doing that. This is my only income. This is the only money I'm making. Now I'm lucky enough. I do have some savings. I haven't put myself into debt for it, but I've hit that point where I cannot keep doing that. And I did it. I did it for the debut, and I've continued doing it in hopes that maybe I would receive opportunities that would help improve the financial flow coming in. Because I want to give you guys the quality, and that's the fact. A lot of the money that I am spending on stream is simply so that I can give you guys better quality content. It is going towards things like help planning events, towards getting a new piece of art every month for you guys. So there's at least one new piece every month for you guys to enjoy and that we can use to market and do things like that. It is going towards paying for premiums, you know, Spotify Premium, Discord Nitro, things like that, so that I can better interact with and share stuff with you guys. And unfortunately, as it stands right now, once the little bit extra I have in my accounts for streaming is gone, I am going to have to start pulling back on those things. And I hate having to do that, because the unfortunate thing is, as a creator, it's kind of a game of financial chicken. You have to like put out high enough quality to get people's attention. And a lot of times, in order to put high enough quality stuff out to get people's attention, it costs money. And then you have to hope that in getting that, you'll maybe get sponsorships, you'll maybe, you know, hit points where you can monetize on different platforms, and bring in enough that it continues to fund the future of that. The reality is that hasn't happened for me. And that's okay. That's okay. I've put a lot of work and energy into it, and I'm still going to put a lot of work and energy into it, but we may have to start to see a pullback on some of those things. And I do apologize if some of my quality does start to go down. But I need to start being more reserved with it. Because like I said, I genuinely, I have nothing left extra. Anything else that I would have to pull from savings would start to put me in danger. If anything goes wrong with the visa process, because as some of you may know, and if you don't, I am an American, but I'm living in Scotland on a spouse visa, and the process isn't done. We have to renew, we have to go through a couple more processes before I can be truly secure here. And during that, at any point, they could essentially decide you have to go back to the US. And I have just enough to get me and my stuff back to the US safely. So I really can't dig into that. And of course, the result of that, like I said, is we may have to see some quality start to go down again. And I do apologize for that in advance if it does. I am trying my best, and I'm still going to keep pushing, and anything that I can do to help with that, I'm gonna. And I am. Because I love creating content, and I love doing this, and that's why I was willing to put so much into the debut and into getting assistance and like trying to make things really work. And with that, there's some changes that are probably going to start to happen by the end of the year, most likely, with content and with streams and with content on other platforms and all of that, both to address, of course, the financial burden, but also just the burden I've put on myself. I'm trying to make some healthier boundaries with myself in content, so I am not overburdening myself and putting too much on me to a point where I'm using it to hide from my mental illness. Any of you guys who probably deal with severe mental illness know that exact feeling that I'm talking about, and it's not healthy. It's not. We're still going to see streams. I'm still planning to do 4 days a week. Sunday, Monday, Friday, Saturday, same time. But they may be 6 hours, or they may be a little bit shorter. You know, if we're playing a game and we kind of finish everything we're doing and we don't really have kind of a natural progression, I may call some of those days early. We may end at 4 hours. And then I'm going to take that extra time to work on other stuff off stream, because that's going to lead into the fact that I am going to be trying, at least, to limit myself to only working on content 40 hours a week. I have been working on content between 60 and 80 hours a week. And like I said, a large portion of that has been not seen the light of day. So I'm going to be taking more time to try to focus on only doing 40 hours a week between being live and offline. So that's going to be, you know, obviously our short forms and our YouTube videos and stuff like that. But I want to make better content out of that. And I want to focus on completing projects. Even if sometimes it's not perfect, even if I don't have the tools to make it as perfect, I always like to just doing absolutely everything I can. And then letting it go, letting it be released. So I am not planning on like a reduction in any content. We'll probably still see daily short forms, 1 to 2 YouTube videos a week. You know, our couple of Twitter posts a day. I schedule out 2 a day at least. And then of course, anything else that comes out throughout the day that I can tweet out, I do as well. But I'm going to be trying to put a healthier boundary there for myself. And of course, with not always having the money to hire outside help may mean that there may be times where we do see a slight reduction in content, or we see things that aren't as polished come out. And I hope that you guys will still show them the same love and support that you guys have everything else. I am working really, really hard to hit monetization on YouTube. So hopefully we can start seeing some coming through that, as well as, you know, we're still grinding out to the 10K on TikTok. So hopefully I can start to hit the creator program there and start to make money off of that content. Because that's the reality. While you guys have so many options to support me, and I love when you guys do, whether you know, subscribe or you throw biddies my way or you donate or you buy something off my wish list. And all of that does help. All of that does go right back into content right now. I do hope to hit a point where I can actually start putting some safely into savings every month without sacrificing stuff for content. But I am trying to also find other ways to monetize that don't require you guys to give me your funds. I know it's a really hard place in the world right now. I know that it is not the most secure place for a lot of people right now. And so I'm trying to work really hard to get us to points that we can monetize in other ways on different platforms. And then hopefully that'll help as well. And then we can start to grow back out from there. And I think that's kind of my big thing. I'm going to have to pull back on how many hours a week I'm letting myself work to make myself actually spend time doing things I enjoy, pursuing other hobbies, things like that. Because lately, probably for the past like 6 months, my entire life has revolved around content. Like I have not done much else. Everything that I have done has been content. I get up and I maybe eat breakfast and I do my dailies and then I work on content. And then I make dinner and then I work on content. And maybe if I'm feeling a little frisky, I'll play some games with some friends. And then I go to bed and it's rinse and repeat. And that's not healthy. That's not healthy. So we're going to be trying to limit that. And that may mean that there is times where I may not get to stuff as fast as I would like. And if that does happen, I do apologize. Because like I said, I want to give you guys the best content that I can. But I have been doing it in a way that has just been unsustainable for me. So I am also going to be trying to make better boundaries overall, especially when it comes to things that do unfortunately trigger my BPD. You know, and this is something that this is kind of the heart-to-heart with you guys to please be mindful of what we're saying sometimes. I know a lot of the times you guys don't mean for things to come off in that way. But there have been days where we're playing a game and I ask you guys to let me experiencing it in my own thing. And half the chat is making me feel pressured into following a specific path or doing a certain thing. And if something goes wrong, I know you guys just want to help, but having everybody suddenly dogpile onto, well, you could do this, you could do that, you could do this. And it's all things that aren't sustainable for me to do while I'm live. It just adds to my stress. It just adds to my anxiety. And I appreciate so much that you guys want to help. But imagine if you're at work and you go, the printer broke. I'll have to deal with that later. And then everybody and their mother was like, oh, well, you could do this, you could do that, you could press this, you could do that, you could do this, you could do that, you could do this, you could do that. And you're like, I can't do this right now. Like, it's overwhelming. You know, a lot of times I am putting my heart and soul out. I wear my heart on my sleeve a bit, and it's not something that I necessarily like about myself. But a lot of times, anything that is even potentially negative, especially if somebody reiterates the same thing like 2 or 3 times of, oh, yeah, I don't really like this game. Especially if it's something I'm super, super excited about, right? Or, oh, well, you should have done it that way instead. And if I have it reiterated multiple times, either by different people or the same person, that really gets to me. And I know as a creator, I should probably have thicker skin. And I'm working on it. But I just ask you guys to please be mindful. I feel like sometimes it's really easy, especially with creators, to forget that we are dealing with our own stuff. And this isn't even like, it's never intentional. Well, for some people it is. Trolls do exist. But a lot of times it comes from a good place. But to a degree, this is my job. And sometimes I want you guys to think about, if somebody came into your job and said something, would you, like, you know, somebody went, oh, I don't like the way you guys do this. And it was a job that you loved with your heart and soul, and you put your heart and soul into. That's gonna hurt, right? Now imagine that you own the business and everything is you, and you put all of your work and energy into it, and you're putting yourself out there on the line for people to see. And especially, unfortunately, I see this a lot in VTubing. People sometimes forget that we're humans with emotion behind the model. And I don't think it's an intentional thing, but it's a matter of, you're not seeing a physical person. It's a psychological thing. And this isn't, like, I want you guys to know, this isn't one person. This is both things that I've experienced from several places, that I've seen other creators experience. And unfortunately, I am too keenly aware that it does directly affect me heavier than it probably should. But the fact of the matter is, I will be probably being a bit more aggressive with protecting my peace. Well, yes, I want this to be a safe space for everybody. I need it to be a safe space for me first, so that I can make it a safe space for everybody. And that's just something that we may see change a little bit. I'm gonna do what feels good for me sometimes. And if y'all don't like it, if you're not vibing with the vibe that day, that's okay. Leave a lurk if you can. But I want to share the things that I enjoy with you guys. And that's a lot of what my content is I'm sharing the things I enjoy with you guys. But I'm putting a lot into it, and I am going to have to pull back a bit. I'm not pulling back a lot. You guys might not even notice the difference. You might not. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to end up actually looking in practice yet. These next couple months especially are probably going to be a bit rough around the edges. But I need to start approaching content in a much healthier way for myself. Because as it stands right now, I am burning myself out, and I am putting myself in positions that is just not healthy. And I need to be more aware of how I'm doing things, and to be putting more time into protecting my peace and protecting my boundaries, even from myself. And that's the thing, is a large part of this has also just been essentially me overstepping my own boundaries, so that I could ignore both my physical and mental health, until they hit a point where I couldn't. But I'm working on it. I'm working on, you know, both my physical and mental health. I am working on creating a better workflow for myself as a creator, because this is my full-time job. This is right now my full-time job. Now, I'm not typically what you would expect as a full-time creator. I am definitely not at the level that, like, I should be considering this a full-time job technically. But of course, again, due to my wonderful mix of mental health disorders, typical jobs are scary. They're very scary for me right now. And so when I moved here, you know, me and Rossi kind of decided that I was just going to put my energy into streaming, and we were going to see if I could take it somewhere. And that's what I've been doing. And that's what I'm going to keep doing. But I do also want to share with you guys that as it stands right now, and this is something that I've put down for myself. This is not a pressure from anybody. This is myself. If by the end of the year or early next year, I am still, you know, not in a sustainable place for content, I may potentially end up looking for a part-time job, which will then partially also mean I may have to pull back even further on content. I also am somebody who needs to feel like I am being a productive member of society. Thanks, brain. I mean, that's a good thing, but like feeling like I need to be a protective member of society, but every time that I go outside for too long, I have an upset stomach and feel like I'm severely ill. Isn't really conducive to it. It's just not. But as it stands, I'm kind of at that point where my brain's like, you need to do something and feel like you're actually making a difference. So I do want to let you guys know that. And I will never quit streaming. Well, I mean, obviously I can't speak to like forever future me. But even if I do get a part-time job, like that's not going to be the end. But it may mean that I have a little bit less time to do content outside of like just being live a couple days a week. And it's so weird because it's like, it would be nice to like give it a try, right? And see if I could handle it, but it's also terrifying. And it's kind of like, I hope I don't get to that point, but then also it might be healthy to try. But also, I would like to be able to do that when I'm not feeling like I have to. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's where we are at with everything when it comes to streaming and my health, and both physical and mental, and kind of my plans. I'm going to focus just very heavily on trying to create better boundaries with myself around creating content, but also trying to make the most out of the time and resources that I actually have, rather than continuing to, you know, try to scrape everything I can out of empty pots, because both time and energy and financially, I've been doing that for too long, and that's not healthy. That's not healthy. So we're just going to be trying our best. There may be some slight changes in content, and I kind of hope that it's not enough that you guys are really like, it'll actually impact things very heavily. But I wanted to let you guys know in case it does. There may also be times where I'm more likely to just cancel streams sometimes if I'm really not feeling up to it. I'm going to give myself that grace. If I was working a typical job and I would be calling out sick or genuinely debating it, I should probably take that time to feel a bit better first. Because I would rather give you guys the best version of me. Rather than pushing myself when I don't have any energy left and just running on fumes. That's not healthy anymore. So I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys for listening and being so understanding as I talked about it, because it's weighed on me for a while, and I'm really happy to kind of finally just let you guys know what's kind of been going on behind the scenes.